Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey, right here on the Dice Tower. Today we're taking a look at this little fellow right here, Under Falling Skies. This is from Czech Games Edition, and get this, it's a solo game. Just think Space Invaders, the board game, and you're halfway, actually most of the way there. Let's get down to the table and take a look, shall we? All right, so in Falling Skies, what you're basically trying to do is you're trying to coordinate the defense of a city that you have picked. So in the base game, you're going to be defending Roswell, New York, or Washington, D.C. There is a campaign mode. We'll talk about that in just a few moments. But you're trying to coordinate the defense here of a group of aliens and their fighters invading that town. And so you're trying to protect it. You have a damage meter over here. And the ways you can lose the game is if the mothership ever gets down to this level, wherever that little red skull is, or if the damage level of the base that you're protecting gets all the way down to this level, you've lost the game as well. The way that you can win the game is if you get your research over here all the way up to this top space. If you can do that, you've won the game, but that's a lot harder than it actually seems. So what you're basically going to be doing is you're going to be rolling these dice, and then you're going to be assigning them to these different rooms. And these different rooms down here do different things. The red or orange rooms are going to be launching fighters that will be able to knock out fighters up here, alien fighters that are on these spaces. These green rooms right here are going to be what you're going to use to raise the research level. You're basically researching how best to fight the alien invasion. The yellow rooms are going to be energy producing rooms, which will help you coordinate this energy production over here, which, as you can see, is used to fire off some of those other rooms. These rooms up here are anti-air defense cannons or batteries, and basically what you're going to be doing is slowing the descent of your enemy fighters by putting dice into these rooms. So as you can see, there are 5 columns that correspond to the trajectories that these alien ships are going to. You're going to put one die in each of those different columns every single turn. What row you put them on is determined by a couple of different things. First of all, it's determined by where your excavator is. And that's how you can unlock more rooms down here, is by moving your excavator along this path. All right, so you can always place dice on a row. For example, if the excavator was right here, you could put dice down here on this row, but you couldn't put it over here because this room hasn't been excavated yet. But the further down the line you get, now I can put dice on these 3 rows and this room right here, but I can't put any dice here or down here. A couple of things about rolling and placing the dice. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to roll the dice, and that gives you numbers that you can place. The number on the dice, depending on what row you place it in, is how far down this alien fighter is going to fly down to attack the base. So if I put, for example, this guy right here, that means that this guy is going to move 1, 2, 3. But if I place him here, then that means this guy is going to move 1, 2, 3. All right, if I place this guy over here, this guy is going to move 2 down. So the number of the die determines how far down the Space Invaders are going to fly. In addition to that, the number of the die that you place into the room is the value that you're going to be able to fire that room off in. So, for example, if I place this die in this green room right here and I use 2 energy during the room's phase, then I'm going to be able to use that 3 for research up here, which means in this particular case, I'm going to be able to go up there. But let's say that I used a 5. Let's say I used a 5. So that would allow me to go 3, 4, but then this is an 8. I would have to stop here because you can only use 1 die to move up, and then once you've completely resolved that 1 die, if you have a die in one of these other rooms, you can then resolve that die to move up further. Let's say that I place a 4 right here. That means that this guy is going to move down 1, 2, 3, 4 But then this says the value of the die is changed by 1 when I'm firing off this room. So it's a 4 to move this guy down here, but it is going to be a 3 for shooting down targets. Energies are just going to be, let's say if I put these two right here, that's 7. And then this one has a -3 on it, so it would basically just be a 4. And that means I would get 1, 2, 3, 4 energy when I fired off that room. Now, rooms that have 2 dice, if you only have 1 die in it, doesn't work. You have to have 2 dice in there in order to make these multiple dice rooms actually fire off. Now, a couple more things about placing the dice. Whenever you place a white die out onto the board, no matter where you place it, you're going to take the rest of the dice that you have and re-roll it. So let's say that I put this right here, determining how far he moves down. So if I put this 2 here, -1, he's only going to move down 1 space. So it slows the descent. But when I place that white die out there, I take these dice and I re-roll them. So now that I have some differences in what I can use to roll. But what this has done is it has knocked out all of these rooms that are underneath it, because I've already placed 1 die in that column. I can't place more. Now, when I place this 6 down here, I'm going to use it for excavation. What I usually do is I turn it sideways just to remind myself that it is going to be used for excavation. But what this has done is it has made me move this guy 6 spaces. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When he goes here, it's going to trigger the mothership to move down a row. So this is going to go down like this, and then this guy will just come up here like that, and he'll be spawned at the end of the mothership phase. But this one will stay right here. It made the mothership move down 1, and these are ignored whenever these guys fire off. So we'll talk about this a little bit later though. And then when I place this 3 here, I'm going to, again, -1, so it's only a 2. This guy is going to go 1, 2. If it had been a 3, these arrows here will basically, if I would have stopped there on the 3, it would have basically just made him go over to this column instead. But because I placed it in one of those anti-air defense cannons, then he's only going to go 1, 2 and stop right there. Okay, now that I've done the dice phase, I'm going to move on to the rooms phase, where you actually fire off the different rooms that you wanted to enact. These two, the anti-defense, have already been activated, so you can go ahead and take those off. These two will fire off. There's 8 energy that this room produces, but it's -3, so it only gets 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like that, and those guys can come off, no worries. Then this is going to activate my excavator, and if you look on the excavator, there's a little energy mark, which means that I do have to spend 1 energy in order to move that excavator down. He's basically just going to be placed here as long as it is a legal placement, which means that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that means we are good to go. And now on my next dice phase, I have both of these rows and this room right here that I can place dice in if I want to. Then we're going to go ahead and move on to the mothership phase. In the mothership phase, the first thing that happens is the mothership is going to move 1 down, and then you're going to follow this arrow right here, and you're going to fire off whatever that special ability is. When these effects fire off and makes the mothership go down, it ignores these special effects. So we ignored putting this extra fighter into the fight because one of these guys triggered that first move down. But this one, the second thing we do in the mothership phase is we fire off that special ability, and it actually makes the excavator go back 2, just like that. And then if we have any alien fighters that are up here that need to be spawned, we go ahead and do that, and we follow a couple of rules. First of all, if there is an empty column, that's the first thing that it goes to. So this one would definitely go here. But let's say that because we have other fighters here, let's just say that this one was here like this, then he wouldn't necessarily go to this first column because all the columns are full. Now what he's going to do is he's going to go to the first one that has the furthest one down. So we come here, these two are furthest down, so he would actually come to this one right here. If, for example, this one were down like this, then he would actually come over here. Once we have finished the mothership phase of moving it down 1, firing off its special ability, and respawning new ships, then we go back to another dice phase. We roll our dice, And now we can start placing them on the base. Another thing that I'd just like to mention that is part of the base game, not part of the Roswell, but once you get to New York and Washington, you're going to have these other rooms that are blue rooms. And these blue rooms will bring in the ability to use robots. And robots are basically, for example, if I place a 5 right here, when I fire this off, I'll be able to take, since it has a -1 here, I'll be able to take a 4 blue die and place it on any empty excavated room that's on the board, whether it currently has a die in that column or not. And if I do that, then it's going to be exhausted. But on the next phase, it's going to ready, and I'm still going to put these 5 dice out on these columns, but that means that I'll be able to put a second die in this column, meaning that I'll be able to fire with a strength of 4, and I'll be able to do something else in that column as well. So robots are a pretty cool thing, but I just wanted to mention them. They're not in the first game that you'll play, but you'll play them when you go to New York and or Washington. But robot dice are pretty cool. Let's get to my final thoughts. As far as my final thoughts are concerned, I do want to touch on a couple of other things that I left out of the game explanation because it's just ways that you can make the game a little bit more difficult. Each of the sky tiles that you have in the game can be flipped over, and the level of difficulty that you want, you can put it on a more threatening side. So there's basically more things that can be fired off in the skies by when the when the ships land on those spots. There's more of that. The numbers that you have to reach on the research tile, they're just a little bit more difficult. So to play this on normal mode, you basically just take one of the 4 sky tiles and flip it over to its more threatening side. If you want to up the difficulty from there, you can just flip more tiles over and so forth. Then each of the different cities, Roswell doesn't have any special abilities, but New York and Washington, D.C., and I believe the rest of the other cities that are in the campaign mode of the game, they all have special rules that go along with the game. For example, in New York, you can only have 1 robot, but the value of the room that robot is in is always raised by 1. So that's a pretty cool thing. Washington, D.C., on the first roll of each round, set one of the white dice to 6 instead of rolling it. I have to say, this I was a fan of Space Invaders, Galaga, all of that kind of stuff. I loved those kinds of games in the arcades when I was a kid, and this definitely brings up or evokes that feeling of nostalgia from playing those video games as I was when I was a kid, and it definitely struck home with me. I usually have not touted myself as a solo player. I'm starting to play games more solo because I have to learn them so that I can teach them to other people and get them played more often. But so I'm seeing the value in solo modes from multiplayer games, and I'm starting to dive into I guess maybe diving in isn't the right. I'm tiptoeing into solo games, and this is the 3rd solo game that I've played. I've played a lot more solo modes from multiplayer games, but this is the 3rd just solo mode game that I've played, and I have to say it's definitely my 2nd favorite one so far. I've played Resist, I've played Final Girl, and I've played Under Falling Skies, and this one is number 2. And that by a good long shot. I like Resist, but this one is way better, in my opinion. I like dice rolling. Anyway, let's get to my pros and cons. Okay, so let's just go ahead and hit it. I love the dice rolling in this. Now, that's my first pro, but I will say this, I'm definitely not good at this game because I don't think I'm good at dice rolling. And I know that's a cheeky statement because you can't really be good at something that is random, right? Well, I feel like I'm very poor at it. But that doesn't take away from the enjoyment that I gather from this game. I usually tend to use the random element of dice rolling to really provide a lot of the thematic enthrallment that the game can give me, because I think that's what random dice do. It helps instill a lot of that theme that I really want from a game. If you were able to just accurately map out a solution, to me, that's not really realistic. Now, again, I know we're talking about aliens invading Washington, D.C. We've kind of left the realm of realism. I get it. But if I want to allow my brain to kind of cinematically live in the game that I'm playing, you have to be able to make some of those compromises, I guess you could say. And that's what the dice rolling allows me to do. Another pro of the game for me was the variability of difficulty that you can instill into the game. You can just choose how many of those sky tiles you turn over. If you really want to just go hog wild, full bore, turn them all over. Who cares? Let's just watch the world burn, right? Or if you want to just have a leisurely play and see if you can stop them this time, just keep them on normal or keep it on easy, for crying out loud. Who cares? Just enjoy it. And that's what I liked about it. That variability, that flexibility in difficulty was a really cool thing for me. And along with that, the different city tiles that have a little bit of a special ability that you can use, I really enjoyed that thematic quality as well. Another pro of mine was the different configurations that you could use from the 4 different base tiles that come in the game underneath, the underground bases, where you can basically use any combination that you can. You can use the A as its top half, or you can flip it over and it's the bottom half that you can use. So each of the tiles has 2 spots that it could be in, and you have 4 different tiles. Those 2 things, the variability in the sky tiles and the variability in the underground base tiles, and then how each of the different cities had their own little flavor to them. I really liked all of that variability in there. The next pro is that the gameplay is straightforward and fun. It's not overly difficult. Now, you'll find yourself, if you're anything like me and my experience with it, you'll find yourself slipping into, oh, this is bad. Oh, no, this is worse. Oh, we're not going to win. This kind of stuff as you continue to make poor decisions, as I usually did. And you just kind of go with it and try to go with a plan, a strategy, and you see, well, you get a couple of levels into that strategy and you're like, well, I've made mistakes. And that's basically how it goes. But the game is so fast. The game is so simple to set up and so easy to tear down that you can just say, okay, I'm going to lose this. Let's start over. And I found myself doing that. I played this twice on lives, and I played 2 games each stream. And they were probably around 30 to 40 minutes each, and that was with me trying to interact with the live group that was there. I really enjoyed the gameplay. I was able to take a step back and really kind of enjoy the theme rather than just get enveloped in the mechanisms, and I thought it was a great experience. And really my only con with the game is the fact that there's dice rolling in it. Now, again, like I said, I enjoy that mechanism. I enjoy that random factor. There's going to be people that don't, though. So you're just going to have to understand that going into it and either get over it or stay away from it. And that's why it's a con, because I have found that dice rolling can put a lot of people off. It's exactly what some people are looking for, but it's exactly not the thing that others are looking for. And so that's why it's a con. It's not necessarily a personal thing for me, because I know that dice are dice and they're going to hate me no matter who I am, but that's what happens, and I know that turns people off, so that's why I'm listing the dice rolling as a con. I did experience that idea of, let's roll the dice. Okay, well, that's definitely, I'm not going to be able to work very well with this. Let's use one of those white dice here because I think that'll work, and re-roll. And wow, that re-roll, I just got stuck with another really bad roll. I didn't get hung up on that though, but I did experience it, that sometimes the dice are just going to kick you in the teeth and there's nothing you can do about it. But I also experienced the idea that sometimes the dice are just going to be nice to you, and you can run that research up very high. I experienced both ends of the spectrum, and I also experienced almost everything in between. So it is one of those things that you're just going to have to either accept it or stay away from it. That's basically what I'm saying here, so that's why it's a con. All in all, my rating here is going to be a 7 out of 10. Now, you might say you were raving about this game. You've completely talked about how you enjoyed all these different aspects of it. Why is it only a 7? Well, I suspect. You see, I haven't played the campaign version of it yet because I'm borrowing this from a friend, and he has a lot of his campaigns saved in it, and I didn't want to touch any of it for his benefit. So, I haven't played the campaign version of it yet. I highly suspect that after I play the campaign of this, it will easily be an 8, if not higher. I don't know. I can't say for sure, so I have to only go with what I know. And with what I know here, the base game, this is a solid 7 solo experience for me because it's fun. It's something that I can put up really fast and tear down really fast. It's something that I can just kind of leave there and come back to it later. It's such a fun experience. A 7 is what I can give the base game. I strongly think that once I play the campaign game, it will probably easily go up to an 8 because I'm a sucker for campaigns and storylines and all of that kind of stuff. But for right now, it's a 7, but it's a strong 7 out of 10. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care.